What comes to mind when you think of Platinum? Bayonetta? Metal Gear Rising? Wonderful 101? Anarchy Reigns? What do you mean you haven't heard of those last two? Platinum Games have plenty of titles under their belt already, and have more on the way with Nier Automata and Scalebound. However, a number of those games tend to have flown under the radar, despite being pretty fun and interesting. It makes perfect sense to start off this new series by showcasing one of those overlooked games. So, I ask you this: why haven't you played Vanquish? Vanquish was released in October of 2010 to pretty solid reviews all around, scoring anywhere between 7 to 9 out of 10. And both the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions sit at an 84 on Metacritic. So why is it a part of this series? Well, it could be due to the game's relatively low sales. Vanquish sold just over 800,000 copies by the end of February 2011, and since then has seen quite a drop off, which certainly isn't an anomaly considering it's been out for almost 6 years. That being said, the total sales of the game, according to VG charts, is an estimated 1.04 million combined. Compare that to, say, Bulletstorm, which has sold an estimated 1.02 million copies on the 360 alone, and you'll see that it's a safe bet to call Vanquish overlooked. Now you might be asking, well, what makes this game worth playing? And my answer to you would be the gameplay. Vanquish is a third-person shooter that actually brings new things to the table by incorporating elements of bullet hell games. During firefights, enemy bullets, missiles, and explosions of all sizes will be pretty much non-stop. You can avoid them by taking cover, but the game actually deducts points from your total score for spending too much time in cover. So you're encouraged to stay on the move and use the sliding boost mechanic to your advantage. Using this move, you can slide around like a 1980s rock star and take out enemies in slow motion. It feels great to fly around, flank enemies, and take them out before they even know what's going on. It's essential to use in boss battles as well, to avoid attacks and find openings on their weak points. These two elements really add something fun and unique to the gameplay that otherwise would be fairly basic. If you're looking for a game with a deep and engaging story, well, sorry to say that Vanquish isn't going to scratch that itch. The story in this game is decent at its best and forgettable at its worst. The most interesting part about it is the setting. It's set on a type of space station known as an O'Neill cylinder that the US launched in an attempt to solve its growing energy problems. At the beginning of the game, a group known as the Order of the Russian Star takes over the station and uses its harvested solar energy to destroy San Francisco. The main villain, Viktor Zaitsev, demands that the US surrender or else New York will be next. That's where you come in. You play as Sam Gideon, a DARPA agent sent to assist the Army task force known as Bravo Company, and their leader, Lieutenant Corporal Robert Burns. The President and Secretary of State have given you orders to rescue Dr. Francois Candide, a scientist who was working on site when the space station was attacked. The plot is full of predictable twists and turns, and it ends without really wrapping anything up. I would definitely say this is one of the game's biggest drawbacks. That leads me to the game's second biggest drawback, the length. My playthrough lasted just over 3 hours. To be fair, I was playing on casual, and the average for normal seems to be about 6 hours. There is also a seeming lack of replayability. You do unlock a new, harder difficulty when you complete the game, but aside from that, there isn't much else to do after you take down the Shinji Mikami asteroid and watch the rest of the credits roll. Vanquish may not be for everyone, but for what it lacks in story and multiplayer modes, it more than makes up for with fun and frantic gameplay. There were more than a handful of times that I stared wide-eyed at my TV, completely drenched in the sheer amount of fun that I was having. There's no deep themes buried in the story to digest. There's no crazy emotional scenes that are meant to make you cry. It doesn't even ask for too much of your time. You bring it home, you put it in, and it says, hey, How about you and me just go jet boost around and shoot some robots for a couple hours? So if you happen to see Vanquish on a shelf or in some bin for just a few bucks, pick it up and give it a shot, and it's definitely worth a few hours of your time.